sports, action, comedy.
You can't even lay a finger on me, huh?
Please don't you forget to subscribe and hit the bell. The Olympic Games get attention, but we don't want to be just another copy, so how can we make it different? Name a sword after it? No, that doesn't make much sense. I know, we need stars to make it interesting. Yeah, this show is a parody apparently. A show called Battle of the Network Stars brought together actors from the 3 open-air channels in the US, within which they competed in sports. Here's Tom Selleck with his mustache. Hanna-Barbera has a hell of a lot of characters, why not do the same? For a little context, Hanna-Barbera started in 1957, when MGM decided to no longer make cartoons, and their founders had an idea for a cat and mouse cartoon, The Rough and Ready Show, and they had 170 shows until becoming Cartoon Network Studios. 165 of those were before the Moxie Show, the first original for Cartoon Network. That doesn't mean there were no new characters in this show. We have 3 teams, the Yogi Yahooies, the Scooby Doobies, and the Really Rottens. And out of the third one, I'd say only the leader is easily recognizable. Most of them would have been created for the cartoon with quite a few quotes, because almost everyone is based in something previous. Only the Great Fundu and his rabbit seem to be completely new. We have the Daltons, that show up in Huckleberry Hound and Quick Draw McGraw, but were redesigned. The Creepleys, who seem to be a new version of the Gruesome that were on the Flintstones, which seem to be a version of the Munsters, also including their pet octopus. Oh, and that was while the Munsters were still on TV, okay? Daisy Mayhem, who seems to be a version of Daisy May from the Little Abner comic, which down here were called Ferdinando.
No relation.
And that somehow is connected to Shmoo? I didn't even know Shmoo was a seal. Oh, that's only down here, I guess. Of course, maybe the more noticeable are Mumbly and the Dread Baron. It just so happens that the 2 original characters, Dick Dastardly and Muttley, weren't solely owned by Bar of Hina. Therefore, when they wanted to do something new with the dog, he became a detective in another color called Mumbly, but that still talks, and laughs the same way. In this incarnation, he goes back to being a villain and becomes the leader of the group, and his owner is barely there. Here, he's the Dread Baron, and it looks like they said in a comic that he's Dick Dastardly's twin. Considering their productions, they seem to use more well-known characters and gather less popular shows to fill time, as in Fred Flintstone and Friends, which had within it Goober and the Ghost Chasers, I Dream of, Genie, and the Partridge Family, but it's in the future. So it makes sense to use Yogis, Yahooies, and Scooby Doobies, to get attention. But maybe they wanted to hide the strategy more, writing episodes with all of them in a series that wasn't for any one of them specifically. It's Jellystone before Jellystone. The show is a bundling of competitors. Each of the groups sends a number of representatives, if they're not cheating like the Rottens, to get points and reach the podium. Unfortunately, I can't say much of what I saw is fun. It's consecutive basic jokes, using the variety brought by the Hanna-Barbera cast. Certainly there are interesting things, like Huckleberry Hound armchair skiing decades before Stewie Griffin. And there's some creativity, both bringing different sport as well as showing the competitors in different places. Still, as many of Barba Habanera stuff, various jokes seem to have aged poorly, I'd say. Like the commentators or members of the Rotten cheating just to be shown on an instant replay. And Mrs. Ripley, where did your mouth go? In particular, we have the comments from the participants, something that seems to have come from the original show, where the fun is them being celebrities that might not be used to that sport. I'd say some jokes still work.
Mrs. Mumbly, what do you think of your son's chances?
At the same time, with the production being so limited, as so much as Baba Hanera ends up being, I can't help but see some charm in the team leaders in line work reacting to the scores changing. In the first half of our first episode, we have skis, ice skating, and toboggan. Of course, it's a comedy, but I really find it suffers a bit from not trying to show a competition as it should be. Skiing, they are timing it, but the characters go down at the same time, but don't start at the same time. It looks like they really wanted the photo finish joke, so they needed Huckleberry and the Rotten near each other by the finish line, but putting them all starting together would be troublesome. On the ice, it's more like figure skating for Yogi and Daisy, but Dynamite is jumping over barrels? Well, what really matters is the wizard turning the toboggan into a balloon, then hooking, or anchoring, Captain Caveman and the Teen Angels so their toboggan goes down without them, and the Rotten finally finish the race cheating, but lose for never crossing the finish line. In the second half, in Tokyo, we start with Sumo, where Shaggy happily goes outside the arena, because no one researched what they were talking about. Then again, he literally flies flapping his arms, so what you want? The Rotten then defeats Grape Ape, tickling him with feathers. Before the tennis portion starts, we have one of those jokes that makes no sense and is kinda xenophobic for no reason. Mew the Wolf, one of the presenters, is being fanned by women in kimonos. I imagine they're meant to be geishas, even without the makeup.
Thank you, little butterfly.
It looks like they're pointing and laughing at people for doing this kind of thing, only no one would do this. It's just weird. Maybe if they were talking about being uncommon, it could be more like the luxurious services of some places, but why would you even want fans when there are electric fans? In the same cartoon, that says the Tokyo team is called
Tokyo Transistors.
The first mini-split air conditioner was sold in Japan 15 years before this very cartoon. After the magician literally multiplies and Yogi makes his racket bigger, he wins because one of the magician's balls hits his top hat. And then Dynamite wins, barely moving at all. Baseball, Quick Draw has bats for pistols. Fun, but confusing. The Baron has a ball machine gun, but Captain Caveman easily deals with it. But we're back to making no sense. We have a flashback of Fred giving Scooby-Doo some advice and his back locking up, but then the narrator says he'll use his internationally famous throw. Admittedly, I like the next joke.
A hole-in-one!
And the narrator announces the Scooby-Doobies were the only ones that got points for having been the only ones to score a run. But you guys said everybody gets points. Were they on a deadline and didn't want to decide who was last? As I see it, Laff-A-Lympics is more of a curiosity than anything. Nowadays, the only use might be to bet on who's gonna win without knowing which episode it is. A huge amount just seems very rushed. No wonder so many people end up thinking animation is just for kids, after years and decades of, if you like Tom and Jerry, you'll love Grape Ape. We can't use Muttley? Now he's Mumbly, and he's a detective. Not exactly uncommon for Hanna-Barbera and Han. Please don't you forget to subscribe and hit the bell.